Welcome Connie Crawford.
So my high school education was really a study in extremes. It was really chaotic personally and pedagogically. I went to 3 radically different high schools. I started out in a big public high school where most of the learning happened in the bathrooms. And, there was a lot of drugs, a lot of drinking, a lot of smoking, and the classes were mind-numbingly boring, except for my Latin class, which I loved. I just loved my Latin class. So when they announced, okay, we're not going to have Latin anymore, nobody likes Latin, I said, oh my God. So I go to my mother and I say, Mom, I need academic rigor. I'm thirsting for knowledge. And she was great. She would always support me making my own choices. So off I go to the elite boarding school, the private, academically rigorous prep school. And it was, the Latin class was fantastic. It was just great. But there was this bizarre subculture there of eating disorders. And the day I arrived to my dorm, this beautiful ivy-covered dorm, they're bringing this girl out on a stretcher. And she was emaciated. And it was the first time I'd ever seen anorexia. But very soon I was joining the ladies in the bathroom, and we were all being taught how to induce vomiting. And it became binging and purging. That's what you did to relieve stress. And, I knew enough. I was struggling, but I knew enough to know this isn't right. There's got to be a better way. So I went to my mother and I said, Mom, fuck academic rigor. I need help. And she said, okay, Connie, what do you want to, what are you thinking about now? And I said, I think I need, emotional support. So she goes, okay, well, let's try the groovy alternative school. So we head up to the Open Community School, it was called. And it was one of these, you didn't have to go to classes, no grades, out in the country. And I go up to interview, and I see, the students are all out. And this is the mid-'70s. And I see this gorgeous guy. He's one of the students, and he's wearing his hip huggers and his jeans. And he's got those sloping shoulders and that kind of turtle muscle stomach thing going on. And long, brown, curly hair. And in that instant, I fell completely in love with Peter Lasagna. And to my surprise, he totally loved me back. It was this moment of long brown hair love, It was like, oh my God. So I went home and I packed my bags and I come running back to the Open Community School and I'm matriculated and I move into the dorm and Peter Lasagna no longer loves me. And I realize, oh my God, now I'm here. And I became one of the many who had unrequited love from Peter Lasagna. And when I say many, there really weren't that many, because this school was a kindergarten to 12th grade, but there were 50 kids in the whole school. So I was in a class of 2. The class behind me was my friend Jeannie, and she was the only person in her class. And, we were a family, an open community. And this school was run by a married couple, Bobby and Barbara. And Barbara was a kind of beautiful, but a little emotionally cold. I think she was German. And Bobby was this emotionally effusive guy. He was 6'5" and really thin and big glasses and white man's fro and he chain smoked Now cigarettes, which were these zero tar cigarettes. So you had to really suck on them to get any kind of flavor. So he was always passionately sucking on cigarettes and emoting, And we just loved Bobby, man. We just wanted Bobby to be our father and our teacher and our lover, and he sort of was our therapist, which was really fucked because Bobby every Thursday night, I don't even think he had a degree, but remember this is mid-'70s. Every Thursday night we had a session called Heavies. And Heavies was all the older kids would come to Bobby's living room and we'd talk about our problems. And Bobby would sit at the end of the couch, and he would chain smoke the cigarettes, and then instead of putting them out in an ashtray, he would turn them on their end and stand the filters on the edge of the bookcase. And so by the end of the night, there would be like rows, these little sentinel rows of these white filters. And sitting next to Bobby on his right every night was the anointed son, the beautiful Peter Lasagna. And the rest of us were just sprawled around. And I mean, we were all rich kids from pretty troubled homes. And I remember this one girl, and she was talking about she'd go home on the weekends, and her mother was withdrawing from heroin. And she would nurse her mother alone in an apartment in New York. And Bobby would hear these stories, and he'd just go, yeah, that's heavy. And put those little fucking filters up, and like just use a ashtray. And then he would go, who's next? And we were all like, me, Bobby, me. I want to expose my family secrets to you. And, but I didn't quite realize how weird it was. A couple other things happened. One was this new student came in, her name was Annabeth. And Annabeth was a bitch. And I had good reason to hate Annabeth to this day. And she did shit like this, not just to me, but everybody. So again, troubled rich kids, man. My family, we were really struggling. And I had a member of the family who was suicidally depressed. And so we'd get these horrible phone calls saying, he just drank a bottle of iodine and you got to come to the hospital. And, we were like, oh, crisis to crisis. I mean, some of you, I'm sure, have been through this kind of stuff, and you really are on the edge. And so this girl, Annabeth, comes to me at school, and she goes, Connie, I'm really depressed. And I just ate a bottle of aspirin, and I feel like, and she kind of goes to pass out. So I'm immediately, emergency, Bobby, Barbara, help, Annabeth, and we go, and the fucking bitch was faking. Complete fake. She wasn't even sad, So I hate Annabeth, all right? And she would do shit like this to everybody. But only two of the other students decided they were going to get Annabeth. So Annabeth was the only, image conscious in the 70s, no, fuck image, right? And so she used a tooth whitener. And this product was called Pearl Drops. And Pearl Drops came in a little bottle, and you'd squeeze 2 little drops out onto your toothbrush, and you'd brush your teeth. And so this guy, Barnaby, and a friend of his, they jerked off into her Pearl Drops. And Annabeth brushed her teeth for a week. And we all thought this was sweet vengeance. And then Annabeth found out, and the adults found out, and then everything exploded, and Bobby called a big school meeting, and he lambastes Barnaby and this other guy, and he throws them out, just throw out. And I'm like, whoa, wait a second, I thought this was an open community. What about what this bitch has done? Nobody's ever talked about her behavior. I mean, yeah, pretty bad, right? But open community, and it's the 70s, come on. And so... So anyway, so I start thinking, this was really weird. I think this could have been handled better. They should have been off. Because, Barnaby he had a really bad relationship with his father. They were very estranged. Barnaby was also really into eating acid. He took a lot of acid, and he was really good at it. He was one of these people who's always better on acid than not, And anyway, his father was a famous TV person. And Barnaby told me once that his father was yelling at him about something, and Barnaby was tripping, and he hallucinated a TV frame around his father's head. And so he's sitting there as his father's yelling, he's reaching out, trying to turn it off or change the channel, but the talking head won't shut up. And but anyway, so then there was another event that happened, which was they came to us one morning and they said, okay, we have a outdoor project. And so they gave all of us older kids shovels, and we went and we dug a ditch. Now, open community schools, you do this kind of stuff, you know. And so we're digging a ditch, and we dig it really deep down to this big pipe. And at the end of the day, we're all covered with mud. We feel pretty good, you know. And then they call a meeting, a big school meeting, and Barbara says, well, what we didn't tell you is that you were digging the sewer line. And you've all been exposed to high levels of bacteria, and you'll all have to take 20-minute chlorinated baths. And there's only one tub in the whole school. So one by one, each one of us kids had to sit in the chlorine water with Barbara right by our side for 20 minutes. And you're just getting whiter by the second, and there are kids outside. And at the end of this strange evening, we were all kind of properly sterilized. And that's when I went, oh, fuck, this place is really bad. I'm like, and I got nowhere else to go. Public school, no, you know, prep school, no. I just got to graduate. Just get me out of here. And I was, you know, in my senior year, and I had to get through biology class to graduate and get out of this place. And biology class was tough because it was the one class that Bobby taught. And the year I took it, he hired the beautiful Peter Lasagna to be his assistant. So I had to be taught by my beloved. And that was okay. You know, I'm like, all right, I'll get by. And there was another girl, Jeannie, and she and I were like, she loved Peter even more than me because she'd been in this school since she was 10 and she was 17. And Jeannie, man, she had a rough ride. She was in a car accident with her mother when she was 6 years old, and her mother was killed, and Jeannie's mouth was all screwed up. And then years later, her brother hanged himself in a closet in their house. And so this place was her home. And we were both like, okay, we love Peter, and we'll get through biology. Until the day they said to us, okay, so now we're going to pith a frog. Now, I don't know if any of you have pithed a frog, but what you do is you take a live frog, you bend its neck, you take a long needle, and you stick it into the frog's brain cavity, and you scramble the brains so that it becomes brain dead, and you can turn it over, it's still alive. And you can cut it open and see its little heartbeat and see biology at work. And they told me I had to do this. And I'm like, no fucking way am I going to do what? No. And they said, well, you have to or you won't graduate. And I said, oh, fuck, you know. So they give me the frog and I bend its neck and I take the needle and I stick it in and I miss the fucking brain. And so now it's like coming in its eye and it's squirming and I'm screaming. I'm like, fuck, no, fuck. And they said, you got to do it or you're going to graduate. Do it again, or you don't graduate. So I stick it in again and I missed it again. And it's like getting worse and the frog's just awful and I'm screaming. And at this point I'm almost hysterical. And they said, do it again, you know. And I stick it in again and I miss again. And then finally just said, kill the frog, just kill the fucking frog, you know. And so they give it like ether. And then the frog's dead. And then I'm like, fuck this, I'm out of biology, fuck it. So I walk away, I'm like, non-compulsory classes, yes, you bet, motherfuckers, I'm not coming back. And Jeannie and I didn't go for months, for the rest of the year. And then at the end of the school year, Bobby calls a special school meeting. And he tears into Jeannie and me for not going to biology in front of the whole school. And we were absolutely devastated, just devastated. And thankfully I was leaving the next day, and he comes up to me and he grabs me and he hugs me and he leans in and he goes, I'm so sorry. And I just pushed him away and I'm just like, I'm going to college. And thankfully, college, I went to Vassar and it was just great. It was like everything I was looking for in high school. I was academically, really good, and I had made great friends, and everything was beautiful. And they kept asking me at Vassar, they kept saying, oh, Connie, we don't have your high school transcript. And I'd say, well, good luck getting it, hippies, what do you. And the school had closed the year after I graduated. And so I'm like, okay, good luck. And they never got it. And to this day, I don't even know if I graduated high school. Thank you.